Hello and welcome to another Microsoft Reactor live session today. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. It's lunchtime in Stockholm, so good day from my side. But before we begin, I would just like to say a quick word about our code of conduct. First of all, we are all here to learn, so please be considerate of others' point of views and be welcoming and respectful. Thank you. But now, what we are really here for is our two speakers, Mattias Olösson and Magnus Dimner, who is going to get started with GitHub Co-pilot. Mattias and Magnus are both MVPs in developer technologies. But they are not only just MVP buddies, but they are also Solidify buddies, as you may say, because they both work for the same Swedish-based company or Sweden-based company, Solidify. And Mattias was the CTO and Magnus the VP title. Their faces have been seen quite many times with me here in the Reactor site because they are so good at what they are doing. So I could not resist and invite them back again. So let me show who I am talking about. Hey, Magnus, Mattias. It's
Hello,
great to have you back
Hello,
after the summer again.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, great to be back.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to listening you about you. I'm sorry, let me just start that sentence again. Really looking forward to listen about you telling us all about the co-pilot, and you're going to introduce us today. It's a 3-part series. Next week you're going to tell about the tips and tricks, but we are all together. We are going to be mastering the GitHub Co-pilot. So I'm going to hand the word over to you now. We have about 45-ish minutes. If you need me, I'm here in the background. But right now, let's go.
Perfect. Then I'll take over the screen and present. So, Erika, can you see my screen okay?
I can at least, so I think we're good to go. Looks fine.
Yeah. So welcome everyone for this session. And as Erika mentioned, me and Mattias have been here at Microsoft Reactor several times, mostly doing GitHub topics. We did code spaces in our last session, and now it's time for the next GitHub Copilot. And GitHub Copilot is a fairly new product, and we love it. The same with the developers within our own company. So we had this, as Erika mentioned, this is a three session series. The first one today with the basics, how to get started with the GitHub Copilot. Then we have a session on September the 6th about mastering Copilot, a little bit about tips and tricks, what you can do with the existing product. And then we have our last session for the season about leveraging GitHub Copilot for efficiency and innovation, where we take a look at a little bit of what is coming and what is included in something called Copilot X as well. So I think it's going to be an exciting series, and I hope you all learn to love Copilot in the same way as we do. And we're going to show you a little bit different things today. I'm working more in administration and that kind of stuff, and I don't develop that much. So I'm going to show you the administration part and how you, a little bit as a non-developer, can use GitHub Copilot. And Mattias is the more techy guy, so he's going to dig into, how you as a developer could use this in an efficient way. So we have two slightly different views. But I know you probably want to dig into the demos as soon as possible, but first we'll give you a background about what GitHub Copilot is, just a few slides, and the basics. So what is GitHub Copilot and what do you use it for? So it's aimed for mainly developers to increase developer productivity. So you will get help. It will be like a pair programmer you're going to use so GitHub will help you to write your code depending on what you want to do. It's going to help you accelerate innovation by helping you do prototypes and innovate more rapidly than before. And even better, learn new languages. You might know TypeScript, but not Python. And then GitHub Copilot can help you with that, learning new languages and also new techniques. I use it for writing YAML pipelines and that kind of stuff as well. So it's not only pure coding. You can use it for lots of other stuff as well. But you'll see. So the basics is, what is Copilot? It's an artificial intelligence, AI, in the background. So it will help you identify patterns and do suggestions based on your comments and what you're writing. It will be like your pair programming pal, helping you to, writing your code easier and more efficient. It's going to analyze your comments and code and try to write improvements based on what you're writing. And it's going to suggest everything from individual lines to whole functions, depending on what you do. It's powered by OpenAI codecs, and it's extended into a couple of different IDEs, Visual Studio Code, and a couple of other ones. And we have a slide about that in a few minutes. So it's all about developer satisfaction, and this is what GitHub says about what the developer satisfaction is. But imagine that you were working within your company, you want to do some kind of baseline. We often do that with our customers when we start working with them within Solidify. So how does the customer feel before we do our engagement, and how does the customer feel when the engagement has improved? And when it comes to developers using GitHub Copilot, 88% have faster completion, 87% exert less mental effort on repetitive tasks, 77% spend less time searching, 73% stay more in the flow, 60% are more fulfilled with their jobs, 59% are less frustrated when coding. So this looks really good. What do you say, Matthias?
Yeah, just seeing the numbers, why wouldn't we want this? So yeah, let's see what this actually means.
And both for an advanced programmer and a junior one, this helps all roles depending on what kind of work you do, and it will help you being more productive. Sounds like magic, right? So Matthias, would you like to jump in and say a few words about use cases and anti-patterns?
Yeah, before we dive into the showing you what Copilot is, Magnus, you mentioned the magic AI word. So this is the big artificial intelligence service in GitHub. So what does that mean? What should we use it for? Again, GitHub being a development and a developer platform, the main use cases would be to use GitHub Copilot for development related work. So as we will see, it can help out with code suggestions. Like when I start to type code, it will propose ideas that I could explore to help me be more productive. I can use code comments, as we will see in a bit, to trigger the Copilot to start thinking about something that you want to implement and then suggesting how you would go and do that. Another task that's quite tedious, I guess, for many of us is to write tests. So Copilot can also help us generate unit tests based on the code that we write. So it can, again, work as an assistant and do some of the chores that we have in the development work. And like you said, Magnus, it's not only for pure traditional source code, but you can also use it for other things. So as we will talk about in a bit, the system has been trained on a lot of different types of code, including infrastructure as code type of code. So you could get help writing YAML scripts or pipelines or shell bash scripts and whatnot. So for me, who has some kind of thing with the PowerShell, for instance, I can read PowerShell, but I have a really hard time remembering the syntax. Copilot can be really helpful with that. Yeah, and then we have other use cases like we see here as well. Doing code translation. If I know one language and I'm learning a new, I could use my existing skills as Copilot for the equivalent in the different language. Another thing that's really cool as well is that because it's domain knowledge, we can also use it to generate test data, for instance. So if I want some example data for my tests or whatnot, then it's also very convenient to use an assistant to get that in place. As well as other things that we might do rarely, like regular expressions would be someone else PowerShell concern like I have. Figuring out the right regular expression can be tedious, and then maybe an assistant can help us. But it's not intended to be an equivalent to ChatGTP, where you could ask it to write essays or things that will be more pure natural language. GitHub Copilot is targeted towards source code. And I think in one of the deep dive sessions, we can talk more about how the language system works, and also about some of the small prints as well, how you're supposed to use this in a what do you call it, in a responsible way. But I think we can take the next slide, Magnus.
Yeah.
And this picture, once it's loading, just illustrates how Copilot actually works. So we will start with writing an intent in our development environment, and GitHub Copilot will use the context that it has, which, as we will see, is typically the opened files. So it's not attached to a repository in the way that, let's say, code spaces are in GitHub. It's working on the files that you open in your editor. Then it will take the intent and that context and ship it over to the Copilot service. And it first lands in a proxy service that will handle authentication, but it also does things like sanitizing the code. So it will try to remove personal identifiable information, secrets, so that the system never gets to see that, as well as doing some sentiment analysis. Then that information, that's what we typically call a prompt in these AI systems, that gets sent over to the OpenAI engine, and it will take that prompt, that context, and then generate a response. And the response will then similarly be filtered for sentiment and security context, and then being returned back to us as suggestions. And then, as we see in this process, we have this filtering, which is important for trust and credibility, obviously. And Magnus, you will talk a little bit about how we can control what state get persisted, and how we regard open source code, if we want to use that or not. So the system will take advantage of its learning on a huge amount of open source code. And by default, it will actually also propose suggestions based on the open source solutions, and then do the filtering. But if we would prefer it to just exercise its general understanding of a programming language, it will just generate a response based on that. So like any of us learning a language from a textbook, then we can come up with a code example without copying something else. Copilot can work in that way as well. So either it can be inspired by open source, or we can disable that. All right, so one more slide, and then we'll jump over to demos. And or maybe two then. So the default behavior that we will see is that we get a prompt, and the system will automatically, when you have activated Copilot, it will start generating suggestions in line. But there is also a preview feature where you can install an extension once you have been accepted to the preview program, that will give you a proper chat window. So this is a richer experience, and you can use this to have a conversation around something with the system. So it can help you explain code, fix problems, do documentation, write the unit test that I talked about. And we'll take a look at both in the demos. So one is more for being your coding assistant. The other could be more your pair programmer where you can have an interesting conversation about the problem that you want to solve. And the last slide I want to mention is the where we can use Co-pilot. And as you can see, there's a bunch of different IDEs that we can use. So we can use code spaces, essentially a browser-based environment connected to GitHub, but we can also use Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio, and a few other IDEs. And these will, again, use the context that we provide, meaning the open files. So it's not connected to any particular backend on the client side. So that was kind of the high level of what GitHub Copilot is, the AI assistant that takes an intent based on the context that you're working with, sending it over to the AI service for processing and returning suggestions. So I think with this, we want to see how we set it up, Magnus. So talk about how we get started.
Yeah. So there are two flavors, one for individuals, and they're quite the same, but I mean, both plug into your editor and gives you these natural language prompts and so on. For individuals, you can block suggestions matching public code and in business as well. But in the business part, there's a little bit more about licensing, and you can how you work with policies and privacy, and there also is VPN proxy support. I'm going to show you a little bit of both these and the policy part when we get started with the demo. And I think we'll just jump into the demo directly here and see how it actually looks. And see if we go in here. So you can work with this as a private person or connected to an organization. In case you are just working by yourself, you can click in your settings here in your profile and click try Copilot, and then you can
see
the
slides, Magnus. So
I only see the slides.
Oh, yes, sorry, we can't see you doing the demo. You can see only let's demo.
We can imagine how interesting it is, Magnus.
Yeah. So let me see. I thought I'd shared everything. So let me try again. Share screen. So share window, the entire screen. Yeah, that was probably my mistake. Sorry about that.
No worries.
So let's see. How about now?
It's loading. Yep, there we go.
Fantastic.
Maybe you want to zoom in a little bit.
Yes, please.
Yes, I'll absolutely do that. So sorry about that.
Maybe a little more. One more.
Yeah, sure.
Good to go.
Thank you. Thanks for telling me, of course. So working with GitHub Copilot, you can work with it by yourself or within an organization. So if you want to try it out, you go into your profile and just click try Copilot. And you can do it, pay $10 a month or pay a yearly plan to get it by yourself, get access to Copilot. Or if you're part of the organization, you set it up through the organization. If we go back in here, and as I have Copilot activated already, I have, see, my settings down here. And there are Copilot settings here on my own profile. And as I have already connected to my organization, Solidify Demo, it says I have to go in there to modify my settings there. But otherwise, you can, if you're working by yourself, you can select yourself if you want to allow Copilot to get the matches from public code, open source, or not. In my case, I have allow here. And if you belong to other organizations, you can add those for asking for access or buying it for yourself. So that is you if you're working as a private person. If you are working within an organization, in this case, we have my demo organization, Solidify Demo. I can go straight in here as well and go to settings here. And I have the same thing here as, of course, Copilot, but it looks slightly different. No, I'm in the wrong place. Sorry. I should have gone to my org settings and not to my personal settings. So, sorry, in settings here, and in my org settings, I have Copilot as well. And first I have the access part. And here I can decide as an administrator for my organization that it's disabled, so no one can use it. I can purchase it for everyone. In my case, it's 40 seats. Or I can just, if I want to try it out for selected teams or users, I can do that. And as the enterprise is slightly more expensive, it costs $19 a month, except for compared with the private one where you get it for $10 a month. But you get some more stuff as well. So if you want to see, if you activate for everyone, you might see if someone actually using it. And here I can see my colleagues who is using Copilot or not. And then I can tell them that, okay, you're not using Copilot. Why not? Maybe you should try it and try to get the Copilot usage running within your organization or not. There's also the ability to set some policies here on organizational level. First, matching public code. You might want or might not want your suggestions come from public matching code, open source, and then we can select that to be allowed or blocked. And also there's a beta of the Copilot chat that Matthias is going to show us in a few minutes, and we can select if that is going to be allowed or not. And we can probably count on that there will be more stuff coming in, more features added, and more policies coming as well over time. And of course, if we're working in an organization and go to billing as well, we can see how much is used of the Copilot and every other part here. And we can even drill down to the billing settings and check the costs and everything. But I won't go into that at this moment. So to get started, we just have to open Visual Studio Code or some other IDE and activate it. And I think let's switch over to you, Matthias, and so you can show us how that works.
All right. Yep, I think I will be able to do that. So let's go ahead and share my screen instead. And
no sharing yet. Now we see it.
Better now.
Yep.
Just see the blank editor. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, before we start with the demo, see if I can do what you asked me for. So I'm using Visual Studio Code. And in Visual Studio Code, you have extensions for all sorts of things. And if you want to work with Copilot, you search the marketplace for Copilot. And now I have already installed the two ones that I want to use, the GitHub Co-pilot core extension. This is what gives you the AI support. So you install that. And then since I also have access to the Copilot chat, I search for this one and install it. This is a pre-release extension, so it will require me to work in the pre-release version of VS Code. But that's the two extensions that I need. And once I have installed this, I should probably have backed out earlier, but if the first time we use it, you get to sign in to GitHub, and then once you have done that, you get a small icon at the bottom right of the screen here that allows you to enable or disable the Copilot. So there's not so much that we will manage for this one. Essentially just that we can activate it or not. If I don't want to use it for some reason, I can deactivate it. All right. Did you think about anything else, Magnus, or?
No.
No? All right. So we're going to do a couple of demos. And today we will focus on the more basic stuff. In the next sessions, we will do tips and tricks. So then we will show more features that you could learn about. And in the last sessions, we will try to apply or show how we apply Copilot in day-to-day development and see how hopefully you get these nice increases to developer happiness and productivity and whatnot. But I think it's really happy and fun to work with. I've had a big smile on my face many times when I'm working in VS Code and it starts to do things that I didn't expect it to. So let's see if we can get any of those moments when we do this little first demo. And I was thinking we start with a scenario that I have an idea, but I don't really know how to build this. So I would like to build something super easy. I want to build a web application in Node in TypeScript that calculates some numbers. So I know enough about Node and JavaScript to get started, but I don't know all the details of how to do some things. So let's see this as an example of when you're picking up some new tool, you can get help actually being productive without having to use a search engine for everything. So I'll just initialize my folder with a package file to do the development. And now I have this idea that I probably want to create a calculator JavaScript file. So I'll go and add that to my folder structure here. And then, yeah, again, it's going to be fairly simple. So even you, Magnus, who's not developing every day, you should be able to follow along.
Fantastic.
So I want to add an add function. And if I can spell, this will be the hard part. Function add. And now we see that something is happening already. So I started to say a or add, open a parenthesis. And as we can see here, something is already appearing. And this is Co-pilot starting to suggest something. If I hover over the suggestion that I got, I can either accept with tab or right arrow, and I can also open up a dialog for it, and I can jump between different suggestions. In this case, I only got 2. But let's say I think, yeah, this looks like an add method. Then I would just do tab, and it's done. And then see what happens. It actually start adding more stuff here. So I didn't type anything, but it suggests that maybe you also want the subtract method. And I keep going. So enter, and now it starts to suggest something else. So here's the thing when actually you need to have a brain to get this to work properly, because it's only suggesting things. So it's not taking over control for you, but it is the co-pilot that you want. So in this case, maybe the path index.js is not what I really wanted here. But instead, I want to do more functions like multiply and why not the divide method here? And let's see, sometimes it doesn't seem to be doing anything. So in this case, it's not really suggesting anything yet. And in the bottom right, we can see this co-pilot icon actually spinning if it's
Matthias?
trying to suggest. Yep.
Sorry, can you please zoom in?
I'm super good at that. So how far do we want to go? Is this?
I think this should be good. Yes. Thank you.
Good. Okay. Yeah. So then it's maybe even easier to see the little icon in the bottom right here. That as soon as I start doing something, it spins a little bit, and then it should start suggesting something. And here we can see that it suggests one way to do an implementation of a division method, checking for a null exception. But let's say I do a naive implementation of this to begin with. So we'll do this. So this is a first example of how we can use Co-pilot to give us assistance in suggesting methods that we might want to implement. In order to be able to use this later on, I actually know that I need to export these definitions. So same here, if I start to type, I can start writing in natural language like this, and hopefully it will show me the JavaScript code to expose these methods to a calling program if I were to use this file. But again, it's just assisting me. So I need to know the basics in order to get this nice super powered IntelliSense, or whatever we want to think about it like. But with this, I have a small implementation of the calculator. And maybe now I want to add some test to it. And I happen to know that there's a test framework called Jest in Node or in JavaScript. So I will just go and install Jest to this project. So I get the package I need to run tests. And then I will also create a new file here called calculator test.js. And I would like in this file to actually write some tests. And we can do this while my machine is downloading the packages for Jest. That seems to be half of the internet that is needed to do that. But again, now I'm also in a clean slate. I have a new file, and I want to run tests here. So then I could try use code, say that add tests for calculator, and then see what happens. So the first line that it suggests is that I need to require to import the definitions of the calculator methods. I tab and accept that. Then it suggests that I test the add method, sure. And for me as a developer, this is great. I don't have to write the actual test code. I don't have to come up with a test case either. Co-pilot is suggesting something for me. And my new way of programming is essentially to enter tab, but I'm also checking that this is probably what I want. So let's say we do multiply, and then I can always use the option of looking at different suggestions. Again, these are really, really basic features, but or functions, but hopefully you get the point. And if all this works as intended, I can go and update my package file here to use the Jest framework. And then if I want to actually test this, I can run the npm test command, and hopefully it will run these 3 tests, and hopefully it will also be successful. Yay, it worked.
That's really amazing. I mean, usually for you as many other developers, I know you don't really enjoy writing tests, and if someone else can do it for you, this is great.
Yeah, I think so too. So I wanted to build the web application for this. So the final part that I want to add to the core implementation now is an index file where I would actually implement the calculator. And again, using Co-pilot, I would document or describe my intent. So maybe here I would say, create a web app that sums to numbers. And now I have the calculator file open, so it will take advantage of that context. And hopefully the suggestions I now will get is that it actually not just documenting what it is, but actually start writing some code. Okay. So this one is using Express, and this was not maybe what I really wanted. So let's see if I can get it to use a different approach. So sometimes you have to know a little bit what it is that you're looking for. So I would just want a simple implementation here. So let's see if it works better if I ask it to create a web server, because I wanted to use the simple HTTP module, and then I would like to use an URL module and parse the query string. So this is more the example that I would like. But I can try the different language or formulate my questions a little bit differently, and hopefully it will help me with the work. So it sets up some prerequisites. Then it knows that it can use the calculator that we already created. So it will suggest that I use that. And then it actually helps me create the web server. And in this case, you see it didn't just enter one line. So it did actually create a whole bunch of things for me here. So this is what Magnus talked about, that it will do one-line suggestions, but it can also do entire blocks like this. And in this case, I want to terminate that and then start the actual thing. So we'll just let it get going. So yeah, this is essentially all I need. So we have an implementation of a very naive web application that will parse the query string, grab two numbers, and then call the add method and calculate it. And if I run this program, it failed, and that's perfectly fine. Server is not defined. Okay, so let's see what it did. It created the web server. But I think in my suggestion here, it didn't quite give me everything I needed. So I want to store this variable here. And then I think if I run the program again, it will actually run.
So we're not completely obsolete as developers, even though we have it, right?
It's still the co-pilot. It's still your assistant.
Yeah.
All right. So that seemed to be working. And how do I open that? Is it? I can open a simple browser here. HTTP. Yeah. And then fantastic.
It actually counts correctly. That's amazing.
It actually worked. Yeah, and then we can keep going. So I will just do one more demo, and then Magnus, you will talk about some other things. So what I wanted to show here is that we also have this chat opportunity. So I'm going back to the calculator here, and if I want, I can press Control-I, and then I can open up a chat window in the context where I'm at. But I can also, of course, open up the chat window like so. So for instance, if I would be wondering if this method is well implemented, then I can select it, open up the Copilot box, and then we have some commands here. So for instance, I can ask it to explain what this method does, /explain, and then it will explain what it does. Quite useful. I could also select the method and then use natural language. And then didn't I properly select this? View in chat. Okay. So I wanted to just ask it, is this code okay? And it says the function appears to be correct. However, it is important to note that this function does not handle the case where the second parameter is 0. So it understood that the division by 0 can be a potential problem here. And then I can even ask it to fix it for me. So then I would go back to the Copilot chat and then say fix. And it will hopefully suggest, and I'm not sure why it's not really liking my prompt here, but let's say I would like to fix it. I'll poke it a little bit. So now it understood that I wanted to get some help. And here you can see that it actually suggested something. And this one I didn't quite like, so I can discard this and suggest something different. So I'm not sure why it's actually doing duplicates now, but yeah, you get the intent. And if I like this, then I will just accept it, and then we can clean it up like this. So yeah, it's pretty cool that you can get this type of help. And we'll talk more about this in the productivity session later on as well, where we can use it for documentation, helping it also understand new code and so on. But with that, I would like to hand over you to Magnus to show you how we can use this as non-developers as well, or use it for other things than writing JavaScript code. So I guess you'll take over the screen.
Yes.
Great.
And can you see my screen now?
Yeah, you're back.
So I'm jumping from the little bit techie stuff into the more admin stuff. If you write documentation, we usually use Markdown, at least when it's technical documentation connected to what we do in our repositories. And from my repository, my demo repositories, I'm using Codespaces in this case. I'm not using Visual Studio Code on my own machine, so I've created a Codespace that I actually opened beforehand here. And I just added a Markdown file here called demo Co-pilot, and I'm just going to show you how we can use Co-pilot in writing Markdown. And same as Matthias, just use Enter and Tab. So I've just written a title here, Co-pilot demo, and it fills out a new title here, introduction. And I can just, or should just be able to continue here with other stuff. Let's see what it does.
Mm-hmm.
And then it writes some text, an introductory text, and I can select that. And I can continue on getting help with what I do here. So it's really good at writing instructions. You can install, like installing a SQL Server or documenting something. So that's a good thing, getting help with the content. But let's just remove that and see more other stuff we can do. So sometimes I have a hard time remembering all the syntax of Markdown, especially writing tables. So let's say I want a little bit help of writing a Markdown table. So create a Markdown table with 3 rows and 2 columns, and let's see how it handles that. Yeah, it does that for me. Just doing Tab and Enter and getting everything I want here. So I get everything I want in a really simple way here. And I can, of course, write more details if I want headers and that kind of stuff as well. And another thing I enjoy as well is a document or a diagram type called Mermaid. And same there. Could be a hard time remembering the syntax there. And so I just want the mermaid diagram. And that's the diagram described in Markdown. Let's see how it handles that. So it does the mermaid. And it should have done some more stuff here. Let's try it again. Yeah, there we have it.
Nice.
And I get a simple mermaid diagram. Of course, this is just the basics, that I can change mermaid in lots of different ways, but just getting started with a little bit of syntax in a good way. And to get the actual preview of the mermaid diagram in the Markdown here, I had to install an extension, this Markdown previewer. Otherwise, it would just have been text here. It's just a really simple thing, demo how you can work with Markdown with Copilot as well. I think that that's really good. Yeah. So
and in the
I
next
think we
sessions, we'll definitely show more examples of different languages and different tools. But I think this is really nice, showing that it's not just about JavaScript code. So this is something in between natural language and the source code.
Yeah. So we'll give other samples of implementation of that. So it's almost, we have about 14 minutes left, and we'll just wrap up a little bit and see if you have any questions. So the idea about Copilot is improving the developer flow, but not only the developer actually, but anyone working with code in any way. It could be code or it could be Markdown or something else. So we want to increase our productivity, to be able to do what we do faster. We will go to focus on satisfying work, like Matthias showed you. Some of you might not enjoy writing tests, but if you can get help with doing that, your life much be more fun. You're probably more likely to complete the tasks you've been given to you. And as Matthias showed you, you can use Copilot to generate code from natural language, automate some repetitive tasks like creating our tests, and learn of new ways to code with impulses from other coding languages or the same coding language that you're working with. We have a little bit of learning paths here. I will post this in the chat or in a few minutes so you can get them there. This is the basic documentation of GitHub Copilot, and there's a quick start, getting started with the Copilot. We have some Copilot introduction training from Microsoft Learn, and a beginner's guide to prompt engineering with GitHub Copilot. Next up we have is the Mastering GitHub Copilot with tips and tricks, and that's in 2 weeks. And here we're going to dive deeper into GitHub Copilot and uncover some advanced techniques, providing some tips and some address on common challenges that developers may encounter. So we'll be lots of demos here and some things that how you could use Copilot in different ways that we've shown you today to become more efficient in your work. And I'll stop the sharing here, and let's see if we have any questions. And I will also post the links here as well.
Yes. Yes, so here you can register for the next event, the Mastering the Tips and Tricks, in 2 weeks' time that Magnus had just showed. I saw a question. Where was it? That hasn't been answered. Yeah, can you please explain what is the actual difference between GitHub and the Copilot, GitHub Copilot?
That's a good question for you, Magnus.
Yeah, okay. Let's start with what is Git. And Git is a source control provider, and that's an open source project. And Git is where you store your source code in a distributed version control environment. If we add GitHub to that, so GitHub is a way to not only handle your source code, but work together with other people doing other stuff, like working with issues, actions, wikis, that kind of stuff as well. So it's adds on a collaboration layer on Git. Then we have newer parts of GitHub that are, we can call it add-ons. So how do we use GitHub or becoming a better developer in a better way? And then we have various add-ons. We have GitHub Advanced Security that we have talked about in previous sessions as well, which gives us a security add-on to GitHub. And then we have Copilot, that is another product. It's connected to GitHub, but you can use it without being connected to GitHub. You just have to have the license. You can use it in any IDE. So it's aimed for you to, together with using GitHub, to become a more efficient developer, but it's kind of loosely coupled to it. I hope that was a vaguely okay answer.
Yeah, I think so. So, I mean, it's interesting because it's almost like a Git. You can use it standalone. So GitHub Copilot is the AI service. It's one of the products in the GitHub platform, but it's not as tightly connected to the platform as maybe code spaces that you only run based on a repository in GitHub.
Thank you. We have 2 more questions. Let's start
Okay.
with the first one. Are we going to have an AI assistant integrated in VS2? I mean, have it as a default add-on.
Good
Envision.
questions.
Indeed.
Probably makes sense, but for now it's an add-on that you install. But I guess it's similar to in VS Code. You also installed an extension, and I guess that's a way to keep your development environment as light as you want. But if you want a Copilot, then you install it. But I get the point. I mean, I think it will prove to be one of the core things that we kind of expect that it will always be in our environment. But yeah, who knows? I haven't heard anything about the plans for that particularly. No.
It comes when it comes.
Yep.
Okay, next question. Matset A is curious about the policy on using OSS suggestions directly. What is the concern exactly? Is it a question of the type of OSS license?
Yes, I would say that this is the license type. If you are an enterprise, and you might or might not want to have public code mixed up with your own code, because you might not understand the implications of the license you're using. So that gives you the ability to turn that off and just use the built-in language helps in your code. And if you're working as a private person and you using your own code, you might not care about that. So it's a good thing that you as an enterprise can select, because your procurement and other parts of your company might have things to say about using it or not. It shouldn't be that big of an issue, but it's good that you have the opportunity to select to have it or not.
Thank
And
you.
I think it's also worth to mention the other way around, that when we send information from our editor to GitHub Copilot, in the picture that we showed, it might look like it's sending the code, but it isn't really doing that. It's more like it's parsing the code on my side, similarly to if you would do I don't know, Google Translate or whatnot, and then it sends over the expression or the intent, and then we can control if GitHub ever stores that. And I think if you have a business plan, it will never store it. But if you're an individual, then you could opt in or out if you want GitHub to learn based on how you use the system. But that's an opt question. You can select to do either.
Thank you.
All right. Any more questions that we haven't covered?
Yes, 2 more. One, is there a free option of Copilot for developers?
No, but you get 30 days if you want to try it out to decide if you want to use it. And then as a developer, you have to opt in for $10 a month after that. Could be off, I don't know, but probably that could change in the future. I mean, GitHub has been good helping students and that kind of stuff, but at the moment it's the 30 days that we are up to.
Okay.
And I would advise you, please try it out and see how it can help your working day. It's great fun using it.
Okay, I saw 2 more questions. Wait, here. Can you use GitHub Copilot to bootstrap an entire full stack project? For example, tell it to initialize a CRA with TS with the front end and Node.js plus Express for the backend.
That's something
That's
you
a
must.
complex, nice question for you guys.
Yeah. Try and see for yourself, I guess. My experience is that it's still the context awareness that will be some sort of bottleneck. but I feel in the chat option, if we have the chat extension, then you could express things like this, similarly like you might have do in chat GTP. So then it would suggest larger pieces of code. Otherwise, if you're doing like the sample we showed, then if you're just in a source code file, it will be more one line or a code block at a time. But I think we'll see that it can be used to at least provide scaffolding building blocks in the chat.
Thank you. There were more questions. Here, will GitHub Co-pilot add our creative solutions to its engine?
So that is, would GitHub Co-pilot learn from what we write? And as an enterprise, no. And as a private user, yeah, then you can opt in if you want to GitHub to learn from what you're writing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matthias. I think it works that way.
Thank you. Oh, questions are just popping in.
That's great.
Next one. Not sure if it is right forum to ask, but any possibility to achieve the same functionality of Copilot chat just with default GitHub Copilot, but integrating with OpenAI Codex via semantic kernel? You're getting good questions, guys.
Yeah, great fun. Nothing I can answer. What do you say, Matthias?
No, I mean, I suppose you could explore that idea. The services are there, but I know that GitHub they have I don't know which models they use, if we have access to the same and whatnot. But I mean, theoretically, I guess you could do something similar. But I guess I would spend my time on coming up with a solution to my problem rather than trying to build this type of infrastructure, because it's a very complex domain, obviously.
Thank you. Ariadna is asking, is there a Copilot for the CLI?
Yes, it is. And when are we going to talk about that, Matthias? Is it next time or the time after that?
Oh, something like that, I suppose.
Yeah, so tune in for our 2 next sessions and we will show you.
And then I think this one is the last. Is there some kind of enterprise license for Copilot?
Well, we have the private license for 10 USD a month, or we have the business license, and the business license is the enterprise license. So that is where you sign up if you are using GitHub for Teams or GitHub Enterprise and that kind of stuff, where you are, as an organization, want to use Copilot for some or all of your users within an organization.
Thank you.
So I just want to use the last minute. I'll share my screen super quickly, and I'll show you what we talked about in the code chat thing, because it was kind of pretty cool. So do you see my screen now?
Yes, and then we have one more question.
Yeah, let's not forget that.
Yeah, so I just took the question in the chat about bootstrapping the project, and like I said, it will try to suggest something, and you have to know enough to understand, is this what you want? But at least, as you see, it's suggesting things. So we'll talk more about this in an upcoming session about that, what learning opportunities this actually gives us, because we can keep asking slightly different questions, and then we can explore what type of response we get. And there's a huge value, I think, in just learning from the examples that the AI bot or the AI service provides us with. So just wanted to show you that the chat could be your friend to get going, but it's not going to be a replacement of you in any way. All right.
Thank you. And then one last question. because apparently I missed this one. Sorry, Ajit. Is there a way to teach GitHub Co-pilot some organizational standards and policies?
Well, first of all, they would have to be in a language that Copilot can understand, and that would be, in my case, Markdown. So if you have your standards and policies in Markdown, potentially, I mean, there's GitHub Docs, GitHub Copilot for Docs. Matthias, have you read up on that a little bit? I think you can index at least and use your existing documentation with Copilot there.
Yeah, I think we can have that as a nice cliffhanger and see if we could explore this in one of the other sessions. But there's not something in the release product as it is right now. It's something that might be coming as well.
So tune in to one of the next 2 sessions or both. We'll see if we can answer the question in a better way there.
Yep.
Thank you. All right, 1 hour is up. Thank you so much, guys. Great questions. And
Thanks.
Everybody watching out there, mark your calendars. 2 weeks from today, same time, we will be diving more deeper into the Copilot with tips and tricks. Magnus and Matthias will be here with us. So yeah, thank you once again. And I see you in 2 weeks. And for everybody out there, have a great day ahead of you, or sleep well if it's your evening. So thank you. I see you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.